Welcome to Behind the Barcode, the podcast that goes beyond the label to uncover the stories of the faces behind your favorite products. We're your hosts, Anna and Sydney.
In this podcast, we dive into the dynamic world of consumer packaged goods with a focus on better-for-you products. As entrepreneurs ourselves, we know firsthand the challenges and triumphs of bringing a product to market. That's why we're here to share the journeys of fellow innovators, industry experts, and entrepreneurs who are making waves in the CPG space.
Join us as we sit down with inspiring guests to explore the stories behind the UPC codes, uncovering the passion, perseverance, and purpose driving their businesses forward. Whether you're a seasoned entrepreneur, a budding startup, or simply curious about the stories behind the products you love, this podcast is for you.
So grab your favorite snack and get ready to go behind the barcode. Hello, welcome Emma to Behind the Barcode podcast. Emma is co-founder of Stellar Eats, Better For You baking mixes. I am a personal fan and friend.
Thank you.
So this is really exciting. And Emma had me on your podcast last week or 2 weeks ago, which is crazy. So thank you now for being on Behind the Barcode.
Of course. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to chat.
Yes. And we are going to get into all things baking mixes. I feel like this isn't a category that we've touched yet with Behind the Barcode, which is super cool. Like we've had different CPG founders in similar spaces, I feel, in like perishable, cold, or dry snacks, but nothing in this space. So why don't you tell us about you, and then after you, about the brand and how you connected with your two other co-founders.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, well, I'm Emma. Thank you for having me. Sydney and I are friends. I'll tell that story later.
On the foodie side.
On the foodie side as well, and kind of on the retail side, starting out. So we started our company in technically 2019, but really we started revving it up in 2020. So the company was founded by myself and my two co-founders, Stella and Michelle. Stella and I have actually been friends since, we knew each other in high school. We weren't super tight. We were kind of just like friends that see each other at parties and stuff. And then we went to the same university, so we kind of became better friends there. And during this time, I was working in marketing and sales when I graduated from university. It was very much like an office, corporate kind of vibe. And I didn't necessarily know I wanted to be an entrepreneur, but I definitely had such a creative side that I ultimately decided I wanted to pursue. I was really bored with my job, and at that time I was getting really into food as well. I was kind of learning a lot about healthy cooking, and I was just cooking and baking so much. I was really getting involved with and learning about healthy food. I decided to just quit my job because I was like, you know what, this is not really doing anything for me anymore.
What job were you working?
So I was actually working for a product review platform. It was a cool job. Their head office was in New York, so I got to go to New York a lot. It was kind of fun, but I was mostly doing sales with a little bit of marketing. It wasn't super creative. It was definitely a good jumping off point, and I actually learned a lot about CPG when I was at that company, which I obviously...
product reviews.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And we partnered with CPG companies to run these sampling programs. So I guess without knowing it, I was kind of learning about what I was going to do in the future at that time. So essentially what happened was Stella's a holistic nutritionist, and she had started a meal delivery service because a bunch of her clients were asking her if she could cook meals for them. So she and I were in touch. She was kind of running this meal delivery business. I was at my office job, and I was on Indeed looking for jobs, and I kind of wanted to do something in the food space. I was like, I'll work in a commercial kitchen. Like, I don't care. I just kind of want to start experiencing something new. And she had a job listing for her meal delivery service. And so on my lunch break, I literally left the office and I called her and I was like, I'm going to quit my job. Should I come work for you? And she was like, yeah, 100%. So this is in 2018. Yeah, 2018. So part of so we had already sort of reconnected, Stella and I, after university, and we had really bonded over this kind of exploration of healthy eating because we had both struggled with eating disorders when we were younger, and it was something that we were kind of starting to talk about a lot, and we could really relate to each other on that, and it was something that I hadn't really had anyone to talk to about that. So we were discussing that a lot, and we were both, I don't want to say trying new diets, because it wasn't diets. It was like finding new ways of eating that actually made us feel good, rather than just eating to look a certain way or to be skinny. You know, it was kind of that moment where we were both like, oh, you can cook with healthy fats and incorporate meat and veggies and treats and, you know, cook with gluten-free flours and coconut sugar and things like that. And we were kind of bonding a lot over that. And we were working together at her meal delivery company. And then that business was doing well, but it was really hard to scale. We were working with fresh food, and there was a lot of competition on the market, huge companies like HelloFresh and stuff. So we ultimately decided to pivot the business together. So I was just her employee at that time, and she was working with her cousin Michelle, who's our third co-founder. Michelle had basically been part of and sold another large company, and she was brought on to help Stella with sort of the business side. So the three of us, well, Stella and I had this idea for baking mixes. There was a huge gap in the market at that time, especially in Canada. We didn't really see anything that was made with real healthy ingredients, short ingredient list, coconut sugar sweetened. Like, that was not really a thing, especially in Canada.
When I got into this scene of the almond flour, coconut sugar, everything I had to do on my own. There was no such thing, and this was years ago. So you really did fill a gap in the market. There was nothing where you would feel comfortable dumping it into the bowl and then just adding it. You had to do everything all together.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
It's seriously the convenience factor for people who want to take care of their health. It's like a gold standard for that.
Thank you. Thank you. And I think too, just solving that problem of, you know, gluten-free and I guess sort of grain-free was becoming more of a thing. Paleo, this was kind of when that was starting. And I think a lot of people were interested in cooking and eating that way, but there's sort of this experience that you hear of people having where they want to find, let's say, like a gluten-free or grain-free cookie recipe online, and they go out and they buy 5 different types of flour. It may not even turn out properly the way they want it, and then they've spent $100 in ingredients that just sit in the back of their cupboard that they never use again. So we kind of wanted to solve that problem, and you know, for Stella and I, we really also wanted to create a health food brand that spoke to consumers in a different way. We felt like we really grew up in such a diet culture era where products were marketed to us in a certain way, and we felt like that was really detrimental to us, especially as teenage girls. So we wanted to create, you know, obviously products that are made with good ingredients, but also just showing people that you can enjoy all the foods you love and have no guilt associated with it, and just really eat well and feel good. And that was kind of the thesis behind our brand.
I love that. Just focusing on like real whole food ingredients rather than, I mean, growing up, I feel like the focus was like low fat calories. And this is an actual whole food. And you know, that pain point that you expressed about buying all the ingredients, that always happens to me.
I was just gonna say.
And then I have them all expire. I'll look in my pantry and all of a sudden it's been a year since I've used the $25 almond flour.
And they're not cheap. That's the thing too, you know, like they're not cheap.
I never thought about that till she just said that right now. Because I'm looking at the ingredients and I have tapioca starch and coconut flour, and I literally 2 days ago I was going through my pantry because it's just too many things in there, and they're expired.
Yeah.
Because they've been in there because you only use a little coconut flour and a little tapioca starch. Yeah. Because you don't need those ingredients in bulk, you know?
Exactly.
So, oh my God, it's so true.
And getting the ratios right is really difficult too, you know? Like I'm not formally trained or anything. I just was kind of baking for fun. But when we were developing our products, it takes so long to get it right, especially with gluten-free and grain-free baking. Totally. You really have to have the right proportions of everything. And I think for the average, you know, consumer or cook, that's not necessarily a skill that they have and can execute well. So we wanted to just create a shortcut for them. And yeah.
So did you measure out all the measurements for each baking mix in your kitchen first?
Yeah.
Or did you work with a food scientist?
No, we did everything ourselves. We basically just developed the products in our home kitchen, a ton of trial and error. Obviously, you know, you have to be very precise too. You have to work with scales, not, you know, cups or things that you see in kind of traditional online recipes. it's so exact to the point that, you know, we've learned a lot about that because we've even had times when if one ingredient proportion isn't correct, it can throw off the whole batch and it can make the finished product not what it's meant to be. So yeah, it's very precise. We did so many iterations. Some products were easier than others to formulate, but certain products, like our brownie mix, probably we tested it over 100 times, I would say. Like that one was so hard to get right.
Which one is your most popular SKU, would you say?
Our banana bread is our top seller. We actually didn't launch with that. We only launched with 4 products. We introduced the banana bread, I think, a year or 2 after our initial launch, and it quickly became our top selling product. You have to add real bananas to it, which I actually think is good because the reason why a lot of people make banana bread is because they have ripe bananas.
Yeah.
Right? It's like,
yes.
that's kind of the thing that makes you be like, oh, I need to make banana bread now. You have to add real banana to the mix so there's no fake banana flavor or anything.
Okay.
And honestly, like, I know that I created it, but it is so good. Like, it is the best banana bread.
Okay.
I eat it all the time and I don't get sick of it. Everyone kind of, at a certain point, gets sick of some of their products, I would assume.
I've tried the banana bread, and I've also tried the cinnamon coffee.
The coffee cake.
The coffee cake.
Mm-hmm.
That was delicious.
Yes.
So I tried both and can confirm that it's fantastic.
Amazing.
And it's not even just like, oh, they're good for being grain-free and gluten-free. Like, they are good. They're good. You would never know.
Totally.
So,
and thank you for saying that.
And it's not even just because we're friends. Like, it's just for real.
Well, I feel like there is, like, you know, sometimes you can tell when a cake was, like, a boxed cake.
Yeah.
That it wasn't homemade.
Oh, yeah.
Whereas this actually tastes homemade.
Yeah.
You know, it's technically, like, pre-made.
Yeah,
like,
it technically is a boxed mix.
Yeah, a boxed mix. But you wouldn't even be able to tell.
Yeah, well, you want it to taste homemade, and I think that is something that was so important to us, not just the ingredient profile, but also the taste. Exactly what you're saying. We wanted people to try it and not think, oh, this is good for a gluten-free product, which it is. It's better than a lot of gluten-free products, but also just good, you know? Yeah. And the best compliment is when people say, you know, my brother or my husband or this picky person in my life loves your stuff and I didn't even tell them it was gluten-free. You know, that's the best.
Quick pivot, but how did you go from producing in Canada to then breaking into the US market? Like, how was that shift and what challenges came with that? And then I'm like looking at your packaging because it's absolutely gorgeous, beautiful. I love how you blow up the photo of the product. I think that's super important for food items. From what I've learned for French Squirrel too, is like, you gotta make it huge.
Oh,
the food has to be huge.
Definitely.
And but yeah, what are the challenges with that? Because I mean, I'm even curious. In that way. Yeah.
So when we launched in the US, we actually hadn't planned to do that so soon. This is where Sydney comes in, actually, because so we started in 2020, right? During the pandemic. This was pretty much, you know, a pandemic business in the sense that was our chance to be like, okay, we're going to go all in on this business now. So not even a year later, at the beginning of 2021, we were still, you know, very early. We were still small even in Canada. We got an email from Erewhon. They reached out to us and said, hey, we've seen your brand, we've seen your products, we would love to get samples. And we thought it was a spam email. Like, we were like, there's no way that this is real. We're so small. How did they even find us? Like, we had no idea. I don't know if you know the answer to that, by the way. To this day, people are like, how did Erewhon find you? And I'm like, I don't know.
It could have been me.
It could have been you. Okay, well.
That's what I was doing.
We owe everything to Sydney.
But no, that's not what I mean.
No, it's true. It's true.
But that was what my job was. It transitioned. I was there for almost 4 years, but it was first forager.
Okay.
So I was set to find the small brands that didn't have distribution because Erewhon is a place of discovery.
Yeah.
So they wanted brands that weren't everywhere.
Yeah.
It could have been me or another colleague. I don't know. But then it transformed my role, and then I wasn't that in the beginning.
Right.
After.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I mean, in all seriousness, like if it was you, we are so grateful to you and to Erewhon in general, because that is what I love about Erewhon is they take a chance on products that you might not find everywhere. And I think you both know, being in the CPG industry, that's usually not the case. Like normally retailers want to see traction already when you go to them. And for Erewhon, it's like we weren't even selling in the US yet. Yeah,
it wasn't about the data.
It wasn't about the data.
Like,
it was
is this product unique?
The potential, of the product and the brand.
And your price point as well, which I'd love for you to get into, because it's even for French Squirrel, it's something that we've discussed, and we had Lex from Lexington Bakes on this podcast as well, about like just owning the fact that this is a quality product and this is the price.
Totally.
So, sorry, continue.
We'll get into, I'll talk about that because that's really interesting. Yeah. So in terms of going from Canada to the US, Erewhon reaches out to us. Obviously it had crossed our minds to go to the US, but we were not at all planning to do it that soon. But obviously when you get a request like that, you go with it, right? You get ready and you just do what you have to do. So it's funny, I remember talking to Sydney because she was our brand manager, and I was like, look, we're Canadian. We only have Canadian product right now. What do you think about that? Because it'll take us a while to make new packaging and everything. And she was like, we have brands do this sometimes.
Midday
it's not a big deal.
Also did.
Exactly. But what I didn't know was it's not the retailer is not the problem. It's up to them. They can put whatever they want on their shelf. It's getting it across the border. That's the problem. Because if your packaging isn't FDA compliant, and you're sending a big shipment across the border. If you're sending it in small, personal packages or something, it's not a problem. But, when you're sending a pallet of product, they can stop it and inspect it. And if it's not compliant with FDA regulations, they will turn it away. So we literally had a pallet of our products packed up and ready to go from our Canadian warehouse of Canadian product. And we engaged with customs broker. So it's a person that helps you basically do your shipments across the border. And he basically took one look at our packaging and he was like, oh, this won't get across the border. And we were literally ready to have this shipment go to Erewhon. And we were like, what?
He's like, no, if I knew this.
This is not compliant. Yeah. No, I think a lot of people wouldn't know. We had no idea. We were like, oh, whatever, But there's a few things. The French...
No, like as in this story, I know about the customs thing. I didn't even know that happened to you. Because I've had crazy experiences like that,
Yeah. And so it's a pretty small thing. It essentially was missing a line of text saying manufactured in Canada, because you have to say where it's manufactured. We also had to remove the French because in Canada, the packaging is French and English, whereas here it's English only. So anyways, we ended up basically rush producing a US version of our package that was compliant. And I think the products ended up getting to Erewhon a little bit late. But obviously it all worked out because Erewhon is still one of our best retailers, and we're so grateful for them for taking a chance on us. But essentially we just had to make those packaging changes. And then once we were at Erewhon, that allowed us to open up distribution. We were working with a smaller distributor at that time, but that kind of allowed us... Pod.
Oh, Pod.
We were working with Pod, Okay. And that sort of allowed us to break into the US market. It was still quite slow from there because we wanted to just focus on Erewhon when we started and kind of win that account before moving on to others. But that's basically how we went to the US. And I guess at that time we would have, we already had a US warehouse because we were doing e-commerce. We were shipping across Canada and the US. So we did have a warehouse already.
Okay.
Which was great. So, yeah.
So what are challenges that you've had operating in both countries?
Yeah. So it's interesting. Obviously, there's a lot of logistical and operational challenges, just in the sense that you're selling your products in two markets. You have separate warehouses. You have to be... Everything is still produced in Canada. So all of our products are still produced in Canada. And then we produce a Canadian version of the products and a US version of the products. And it's almost like having two separate businesses because you have to track that inventory separately. We don't necessarily produce, the same amounts of each. It's like, what do we need in the US and what do we need in Canada? And then...
And the packaging.
Yeah. And then, the Canadian stuff gets shipped to our Canadian warehouse and the US stuff gets shipped to our US warehouse. So that has some logistical challenges just in terms of distributing products across 2 countries. But actually the thing that I found most surprising was more how the retail landscape of both countries is so different. Like I think everyone knows this, but Canada's obviously smaller. And in Canada, it's like, you know, there's a couple big major grocery chains. And once you're in those, I don't want to say you're done because there's always more, but you know, there's a couple majors and that's it. There's sort of a ceiling, more of a ceiling. The US is such a bigger market, and not only was it a market that was new to us that we didn't understand as well, but it's very regional. Like, you guys know this, every region has their own major grocery chains, and that was something that we were so unfamiliar with because in Canada, again, it's the same, you know, 2 or 3 major chains for the whole country. Here it's like, well, in the Midwest, these are the chains, and in the Northeast, these are the chains, and on the West Coast, these are the chains. And so it was just a totally different retail landscape to navigate, and I think that's been tough just in terms of our distributors. You know, you open up DCs in different regions, and then you have to figure out, like, what are the stores we want to get in this region? What are the products that we're going to bring into this warehouse that we're going to sell to these stores, you know? So it's more of a model where there's lots of different pieces to put together, and that was new for us. So Whole Foods, we do have a national,
and you guys are national at Whole Foods.
We're national at Whole Foods with our coffee cake mix. Huge. So that was actually the first time we had done a national retail launch, and you know, had our products in almost all the UNFI DCs just for Whole Foods.
And one SKU?
Just one SKU, yeah.
I wonder what the thought process was behind that.
So do we. Yeah.
I know.
I mean,
cake, interesting.
It's a very unique product, so I think that's definitely, you know, part of the reason why they wanted it. It's date sugar sweetened, which is also a differentiator because our other mixes are coconut sugar sweetened, and it's kind of rare to find a baking mix that's date sugar sweetened. So yeah, that was interesting too because that was our first national launch in the US.
Wow.
But yeah, I think that was the most surprising, is just navigating the different regions, and it's such a huge market. Compared to Canada, it's so big. There's so much opportunity here, which is amazing, but it's just, it's different, you know?
Yeah, it's incredible. Do you do more e-com or retail?
Much more retail. We've had more of a retail focus the past couple of years, which, you know, I think there's obviously so many different ways to do it, but I think for us as a CPG brand, we just felt like retail could get us the most volume and the most growth. We're definitely now in a place where I think we want to focus a little bit more on e-com, but I would say, you know, wholesale and retail is about 75% of our business now.
Yeah, I feel like it is one of those products that it's like, all right, we're having a girls' night. Oh, we want to go make brownies, but we don't want to get all the ingredients.
Totally.
We go to Erewhon, check out the baking mixes. Which obviously yours stands out amongst all of them. So
thank you.
It's like a retail product.
Yeah, totally.
And retail's hard. It's really hard.
Retail's really tough. Yeah.
And,
it's really tough.
I think that's one of the number one questions that I personally get asked is which do you do first? And I guess it depends on everything. If I had, it's really hard.
Retail's really tough. And, it's really tough.
I think that's one of the number one questions that I personally get asked is which do you do first? And I guess it depends on everything. If I had to redo everything, I probably would have focused on e-com more, just to get the ball rolling.
Yeah.
But then again, you also can't control how the public receives your product. So like the inbound of the emails about we want to sell your product, like retail stores saying we're interested in French Squirrel, distributors saying we think that this store would be good for French Squirrel. Like that was how it was progressing. Yeah. So it's easy now in hindsight to say, oh, I wish I didn't focus. I focused more on e-com and not retail. Right. But when it's coming at you, it's hard to turn it down because you're like, oh, well, this is where the momentum is. You know what I mean? Yeah. But now I'm focused more on e-com. Okay. And Anna's really great at TikTok Shop and influencer relations.
Ooh, I could use some help with TikTok Shop.
I looked at this right away and I said, this is a TikTok Shop
Okay, can we talk about this
I thought
later?
About it immediately.
Oh my gosh. Okay, because people have been telling me that. Everyone's like, you got to get onto TikTok Shop. And I'm like, I don't know.
Because it's easy and you can see the results.
Perfect.
Yeah, and it's
perfect.
It's a quick, like
it's
a quick
more
sell.
quick. Yeah,
Quick,
these have been really good for e-com too, but. Yeah, it's interesting. Like, I don't think there's a right or wrong way to do it.
No.
And you see brands do both models. You know, some companies build such a strong brand online, but it's interesting because what I've found is a lot of those brands that were sort of the e-com only brands that came about in the last sort of 5 years, they're now going into retail. So I think it's always, you always end up going into the other.
They do, 100%.
Yeah, which is interesting.
So different. And then in terms of margins, all those things.
Yeah.
But we talked about also Gwyneth Paltrow posting your product. How did that affect your e-com sales or retail, anything?
Well, yeah, retail obviously is a little harder to track.
Yeah.
E-com went crazy when she posted, which was amazing. And that was wild too because we didn't send her the product.
It was organic.
She bought it on her own. I'm assuming at Erewhon because it was our biscuit mix, and at the time, that was probably one of the only California retailers that carried our biscuit mix.
Oh, probably.
And she posted this whole set of stories making breakfast for her husband using our biscuit mix. Like, it was literally 6 or 7 stories of her doing the whole process, being like, love this. And we messaged her on Instagram. We had, like, some back and forth with her. We sent products to the Goop office. Like, it was crazy.
Wow.
It was really cool. That was the first time we were like, oh, wow, okay. This is real. Like a celebrity just finding it on their own, especially someone that big who has so much power in that space and is so into like clean ingredients and healthy eating and stuff. So yeah, we definitely got hundreds of e-com orders after that.
That just goes to show like the power of Erewhon. Like it really is a product discovery place. People go there to literally just film hauls, trying new products.
Yes.
You know, that is really like.
And then what happened with the founders of Hue Chocolate. So you just reminded me of this story the other day. Anna and I were, we went to Erewhon Beverly Hills and we were just chit-chatting and shopping and taking things. And all of a sudden, we didn't know it was the founders of Hue Chocolate, Jason and Jessica Karp.
Yeah, I've met,
and
I think
they were like,
Jason,
what's your favorite chocolate at Erewhon? And it was just, we just thought there's this random couple. And Anna goes, obviously French squirrel.
That's amazing.
And then he was like,
he's like,
well,
what?
I mean, and obviously Hue Chocolate. So we get to talking, and I don't remember exactly what happened, but he had the Bizou, in his cart. And so already, I didn't tell him anything. He didn't know that I was the founder, nothing. And like, just as you said, that Gwyneth Paltrow, like that was like the moment for you. For me, I was like, oh my God, like the founder of Hue Chocolate has my product organically in his cart already. Like that was my fangirl moment.
Totally. And that's huge. Like that's the founder of such a successful chocolate brand that sold for so much money.
I know.
Like that is so cool. Yeah. That's so cool.
It was a really cool moment.
And it's the same with Hughes. Is like that's such a unique product, you know, the Bizou. It's not surprising to me that someone would pick it up and be like, oh wow, this is so cool and interesting. I'm gonna buy this.
It's so unique.
It's so unique. Yeah.
And it's nostalgic.
Exactly.
Which is what these are. This reminds me, like, this is giving, like, when I was a kid, easy bake ovens.
Yes.
Oh yes.
Those were incredible.
And
my God.
Your gummies with the Scooby-Doo snacks. Like it's nostalgia thing.
Oh yeah, those gummies look so good.
Oh, they're really good.
I need to try those. Yeah, the nostalgia thing I think is a big part of it too, you know? Like people want to eat all their favorite foods and, you know, people love treats, obviously.
And what they had as a kid.
But I think more and more people want to do that in a way that makes them actually feel good, you know?
Yes.
And that comes from the simple, straightforward ingredients.
Yeah.
And people don't want a bunch of junk in their food anymore, a bunch of preservatives and, you know, artificial flavors and colors. Like, so I think, we really try to fit that need. Yeah.
This is related to food, foodies, ingredients. I swear I watch you on TikTok, Instagram, Kula's Kitchen, and I'm like, I don't even know how you have like time to make these gorgeous videos because like they're in the sunlight, they're appetizing, they're stunning. I mean, and you're running a CPG company at the same time, and I'm like, I also do these videos, but yours are like amazing.
Thank you.
Incredible.
Thank you.
Mouth-watering. Anyway, how does that tie into the business? How do you like even a day in the life? Where do you fit in the filming of this? And then how does it help with the marketing of your own product? Sorry, that was a loaded question.
No. That's great. I mean, yeah, there's a lot to it. Like that started before Stella Eats. You know, it started as many things. It started very innocently. I never thought it was going to be a business. I just was cooking a lot, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to start sharing on Instagram. Even that classic thing where like I didn't show my face for a year. Like no one knew it was me. It was a secret.
Did the same thing
right? Everyone does that.
Yeah.
It was a squirrel icon.
Love that. Of course it was.
Yeah.
So
I didn't want the guys to know.
Yeah, exactly.
College.
Of course. You're like, this is embarrassing.
We couldn't let them find it.
Yeah. And now look at us all, right?
Exposed.
Yeah, exposed. We're exposed.
Oh my God.
When that started, it was really just a hobby, just a side thing. And then obviously I love to cook. I love to create recipes. I love to share recipes. But then the whole creative side of it kind of became a fun challenge for me and something that I really wanted to get really good at. And I don't know what happened. I just got really into it, and I was like, you know what? I love making food videos. I taught myself how to do that, and I just was like, I want to do this really well. And then, you know, my account started getting some traction, and I'm so lucky that it is, I guess, another business now, you know? Like I make some money off of it, and I get to still, you know, do that thing that I love. But it really comes down to time management. And even though the two are interconnected, because obviously I use my platform on Kula's Kitchen to talk about Stella Eats, it actually does help from a workload perspective to keep them really separate. So I
notice you keep it separate.
Yeah, I keep them pretty separate just because I can't really be thinking about both of them at once. I need to focus on one and then focus on the other. So for Stella Eats, you know, we have a small team. We definitely work sort of more normal hours. Obviously, as an entrepreneur, it's more flexible, but we definitely work like daytimes, weekdays. Basically how it works is I work on Stella Eats during the week. Like that's my day job. You know, we work a typical sort of 9 to 5. For me, it's more like 7 or 8 to 3 or 4 schedule because I'm on West Coast time now. And I really focus on that during the week. And then for Kula's Kitchen, I do all of my filming and creative on the weekend for that. Oh. So I think it just comes down to like, what are you willing to sacrifice, I guess, which is some of my weekend. But I genuinely love it, and I wouldn't do it if I didn't love it. Like if it was getting in the way of my life and I wasn't enjoying it anymore, I wouldn't do it. Yeah. But it's my creative outlet, and I love creating recipes and filming and editing and all of that. So I kind of see that as like a fun creative thing that I get to do on the weekends. And then usually in the evenings during the week, that's when I do a lot of my editing and like putting up blog posts, writing captions, things like that. So that is evenings and weekends. And then Stella Eats is during the day. That is what I always focus on. I don't really do Kula's Kitchen. I don't really bring it into my daytime work because you guys know, like running a CPG company is really intense, and I really need to focus on that when I'm doing that. So that's kind of the boundary that I have. But it is great because obviously I can talk about Stella Eats and share a bit more behind the scenes on my personal account as well. So that's really nice. And I think it's nice to see those people who kind of follow both. Like they follow me on Kula's Kitchen, but then they also are fans of the product and buy the product. So it's cool. It's an extension for sure of that. But for me, they are separate in terms of how I work on them. But obviously they're interconnected in the social media world.
That. And you have to, as a founder, have that creative outlet that isn't related to your business in some way.
Exactly.
And then I even find myself now wanting to, I love cooking also, as you know. And then it's like, oh my God, do I have to film this? Yeah. And then it takes the joy away from it. Instead of just doing the therapeutic act of cooking. So then sometimes I'm just like, I'm going to just take a photo at the end when it's done because I actually enjoy, you know what I mean?
No, that's such a good point. So. And I feel the same. I make so much food that I don't film or share. Like to me, the filming is a very specific thing where it's like, okay, on Saturday, I plan out the recipes I'm going to make. I get all the ingredients. I have my filming window. But on a day-to-day basis, I'm not filming the things that I'm eating. Like I don't really... That's actually what's tough about social media to me is I feel like so much of it is very like people are really into in the moment, like raw, real content, which I also appreciate, but I'm just not the type of person who can produce that kind of content. When I'm just eating dinner or on my own at home, I don't want to be filming it and sharing it. I want to be filming my actual recipes in the set time that I'm meant to be doing that. Yeah.
Got it. Okay. And then learned a lot about you just now.
But the strategy of, you know, doing it more in real time, more raw and real, like that is a very good strategy. Like some people are so good at that.
Yeah.
And it works so well for them, but it's just not, it's just not.
You're good at it, Sydney.
Yeah, you're so good at it.
You're really good at it.
You are. Like, I wish that I just, you know, could get on TikTok and be like, hey guys, this is what I'm up to. I don't know. It doesn't come naturally to me.
Sometimes I'll do it in the middle of the day sometimes.
Yeah.
At like 12:30 and whenever I'm making my lunch, and maybe someone will call though, which is the annoying part. Sometimes someone will call when I'm in the middle of doing it.
Yeah.
But I have to take that break from the computer and do a little lunch moment. But a lot of it is meal prep.
Yeah.
But then, you know, you have someone like my mom who will reply to the story and be like, that's a really bad angle. You know what I mean?
No.
Because it's not a... Or like I didn't have my hair done for the video because it's like the in the moment.
But I think that's great. Like I think that's
more relatable.
It's more relatable. I want to do that more.
Right.
Yeah.
But I you know what? We can merge one because I need more of your put togetherness, I guess.
Yeah.
The time blocking.
That's really good. That's really good, and I can make an outfit for my filming.
Right.
Whereas otherwise I'll get the comments about it's a bad angle or my hair is not done.
But you said it doesn't come natural to you, but it's like not natural.
No, it's not natural. You're right.
Filming ourselves all the time is
not
not natural.
Not natural.
This is something that has just come in the last like 10, 15 years.
Yeah.
You're so right. You're so right.
This is not even natural whatsoever. Like we're not supposed to be looking at ourselves this many times per day.
Exactly.
No.
Or like filming our daily lives on some screen.
Yeah.
No, it's so true. It's so true. And I think it's important to have boundaries for social media. Like it is hard because so much of our lives are online, and like you said, I do all the content for Stella Eats as well.
That's
and Coolest Kitchen, so it's like I'm making content all the time, but I really try to make it produced and about the product or the recipe versus me just like filming myself all day every day.
Yeah.
Which again, I like watching other people that do that. It just doesn't it doesn't do it for me because I need some certain time to be like, this is just my time.
I love that.
Yeah.
I totally get it.
But I could do more in the moment, less produced content. I think it would be helpful for me, actually.
Okay, so we'll
challenge yourself.
Yeah.
Accountability.
We both have to do
accountability.
It. I'll do my time blocking where I get it all together and record recipes.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
Now my assistant is recording me.
Oh, I love that.
So and it's great because she's recording a lot of founder content.
That's perfect.
I didn't even know she was recording me the other day, and she made this really hysterical TikTok.
Perfect.
And I'm like, okay.
Those are the people that you need, like the ones that can just kind of follow you around.
That.
No, me neither.
I don't know.
I can't
the ones,
film.
Okay.
Yeah.
The ones, you're good at this. I don't know. I just don't know how to, whatever. You know the TikToks where like you have to record the trending audio for your business.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's a background like, ha ha ha. And then you have to like mimic the ha ha ha.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know why those videos, it's probably because I don't like acting either. Like anything where I have to get into a different character.
You don't like.
I don't like.
That's fair.
Then that's why I am good at let me just pop the camera and show my tahini dressing because I'm just doing me. But then when I have to like fit another viral audio for the business, I hate it.
No, I know. Again, it's like, it's not natural, you know?
No.
Like we're not supposed to be reading lines and acting on TikTok. Like it's
now
wild.
She's recording me, so it's okay.
No, that's great. Yeah. See, that is really nice to have, especially as a founder, because obviously it is important to show behind the scenes content and tell your story and things like that. Yeah. So I think that is really helpful. Yeah.
So how do you go from like making this in your kitchen to then deciding you want to make this a product? And do you have a co-packer currently working with you? Okay. Yeah. So for someone that's just starting out and maybe they want to create some type of packaged product like this, how do you know it's time to go to a co-packer versus just making it in your own kitchen?
Yeah. So we decided pretty early on in our business that we wanted to get a co-packer. So for anyone who doesn't know what that is, it's basically a manufacturing facility, and you outsource them to manufacture your products for you. And there's kind of, someone told us this, actually, someone gave us this piece of advice early in our business. And it's sort of like, you have two choices. You either become a manufacturing company or you become a sales and marketing company.
Yeah.
And we were like, we want to be a sales and marketing company. We personally don't have any interest in manufacturing our own products. That being said, there are so many founders who do it, and they do it so well and have built their own facilities. And there's pros and cons to both, right? You obviously have more flexibility, more control over the product when you're managing the manufacturing process. But for us, because our products are dry mixes, they're fairly straightforward to produce. So that's why we decided we wanted a co-packer. So when we started the first year we were in business, Stella and I were renting a commercial kitchen and hand mixing and bagging every single bag of mix. So we were using like huge mixers, mixing all the powder, weighing the mix in every bag. We did that for probably eight or 10 months. And we basically just got to the point where we weren't able to grow because we were so limited in how much we could make. We would go to our kitchen 2 or 3 times a week, and it's very inefficient to hand make your product in that way. So we were only able to get a couple hundred mixes every time we went. And it was sort of stunting our growth because we were getting reach outs from retailers, but we weren't really able to take on new retailers. We were only able to fulfill the orders of the ones we were already in.
Totally.
So that's when we were...
You're focused on the manufacturing and not the sales.
Right, exactly. And also the manufacturing could only had a certain... There was only a certain amount we could manufacture, and it was only enough to fill our orders, not to bring on new.
And it's exhausting.
Oh my God.
It was the most tired I've ever been in my life when I was doing it.
Same.
And it destroyed my social life.
100%.
I was at home on Saturday night with my feet up on the couch.
Like you feel numb after. You're like, I can't talk to anyone. I need to sit down and stare at the wall for 3 hours. Yeah. No, it's crazy.
Running on cold brew.
Yeah.
Much, more than I've ever had in my entire life. I can't believe it.
No, it's so funny looking back on it because that's so true. It was so exhausting. I think it was kind of nice looking back on it for me and Stella because we spent so much time together during that time, and that was really the start of our business, and we got to definitely be really close to the manufacturing process, which I think is important because later on when we got a co-packer, there are certain challenges that come with that, and we were able to kind of help them solve certain problems because we had also manufactured our product, obviously in a different way. At a co-packer, they use huge pieces of equipment that we weren't using. But
no, I think that's the ticket.
Yeah.
Is you start by yourself first, but you don't stay there. In my opinion, you shift. It's my opinion only. You start so you have the knowledge of how it's made, and you get out of it quickly. If you want to grow it, larger than, I don't know. I know founders who do it themselves. Kudos to them.
Totally.
It couldn't be me.
No, me neither.
But I think you do. That's the ticket. You start, you do it yourself, and then you quickly get out of it.
Exactly.
It's not about one or the other. It's not about just going straight to the co-packer or just by yourself. But when you do it by yourself, how you just get there faster.
Right. Exactly. Because obviously you have to start somewhere. And the thing with co-packers is they have minimum order quantities, and you need capital in order to even turn that process on. Right. So we did have to spend a bit of time building it ourselves before we moved on to that point. But it was definitely something we wanted to do quickly. We really wanted to be able to spend our time getting the product into new stores and doing marketing and things like that. So we ended up getting a co-packer later that year. I think it was September of 2020. And that was sort of a difficult process in itself because we do have a lot of requirements in that we're certified gluten-free and non-GMO. So your co-packer has to have those certifications. Yeah. But we contain nuts. And we were finding, at least in Canada, a lot of co-packers that were gluten-free were also nut-free.
Yep.
Yeah, you know this.
I know this.
Yeah. So it was actually tough.
Fried peanuts, too, on top of it.
Yeah, peanuts are a specific thing as well.
Yeah.
So that was tough, but we ended up getting connected to a co-packer that is still our co-packer to this day. Oh. And they've been really great, and they've grown a lot as well, like in the years that we've been with them. And they actually bought a piece of equipment specifically to make our mug cake.
And that's how you know you have the right partner.
Totally.
Yes.
I mean, they definitely use it now for other things as well, but like it was the first time we used it.
When they invest in you.
Exactly.
And they know where you're going.
They saw the potential.
And
we were grateful that we found them. And yeah, I agree. It's like, do it yourself, move on if and when you can. And again, some people build out manufacturing facilities. Stella and I, we have a podcast as well, and we actually interviewed our friend who's a Canadian founder this morning, and she was saying they just built out their own manufacturing facility, but she's been in business for over 10 years, and she was saying, like, it has to be the right time to do it, It's not for everyone, and you also don't want to get into it too quickly when you don't really know what you're doing yet. Like, she was in business using co-packers for so long before she even got to the point where they were like, okay, now it makes sense for us to do our own manufacturing, right? So
100%.
There's so many different ways you can do it.
Yeah.
Some people start manufacturing right away. Some people get a co-packer right away, or sometimes you eventually, build out your own facility. But never say never, but I think that's probably not something that we will do. But who knows? Who knows what the future will hold? Maybe when we have different products that are outside of dry mixes, maybe we'll look into different, manufacturing. But yeah.
Right. And it really depends on the product too.
Totally.
And also like if you have plans to white label too for other brands.
Exactly.
Great product.
Exactly. Yeah.
Anyway, well, where can listeners find you?
Yeah.
Emma and Stella Eats. Any of your social handles, etc.
Okay, so I'm my food account, Kula's Kitchen. I'm on TikTok and Instagram. It's Kula's, which is my last name. Some people get confused about that. So KULAS_kitchen. And then Stellar Eats on Instagram and TikTok is stellar.eats.
Beautiful.
Yeah, and our podcast, Stella and I started a podcast recently. It's called More Than a Cookie.
Love that.
And it's so funny because I feel like we launched our podcasts around the same time. You guys announced it, and I was like, we're doing a podcast too. Similar, where we interview founders and kind of talk about building our business. So that's been really fun.
And thank you for having me on that.
Of course. And thank you for having me here.
Thank you.
It's been so fun.
Is there anything too you want to share that you guys are launching soon, or did you guys just launch these?
Yes. So we launched the mug cakes. We call them instant treats. It's our line of instant treats. We launched them a couple months ago. They will be in certain retailers soon. We're working on getting them into a couple of California retailers.
Okay.
But they're available on our website. And then our products are available at over 1,500 retailers across Canada and the US, including Whole Foods. Here in California, we're at Gelson's, Erewhon, Bristol Farms. So, yeah.
Amazing.
Love it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Diving into the stories behind the products that fill your shelves. If you enjoyed listening, be sure to subscribe, rate, and review our podcast on your favorite listening platform.
Stay connected with us on social media for updates, behind-the-scenes content, and sneak peeks of upcoming episodes. You can find everything linked in the show notes. And if you have a story to share or know someone who does, we'd love to hear from you.
Keep innovating, inspiring, and being curious about